Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I know that it kind of looks like this might just be the Christmas channel, but I do promise after December we will have some non-Christmas content. And now I do hope you like my sweater, which I know I've already worn before. I also have some Christmas earrings. I have a hat too, but it's kind of small. It doesn't really fit on my head very well, but I think it looks cute. Also lights up. I'll find it. Don't worry, I promise it lights up. Anyway, today I thought we would change things up a little bit. I know, third episode and already changing things. That's always a good sign, right? So a little disclaimer. This list is not a ranked list, so I'm not saying I like one movie more than the other based on their placement. This is just kind of a list of all the movies that I personally like to watch around Christmas time. So just want to go through these movies, talk a little bit about them, talk about why they are my favorite and why I liked them growing up and why I still like them even now. See, this is what it looks like lit up. Now that I've shown you, I'm going to take it off. Okay, so for the first movie, I might lose what little credibility I already have, but one of my favorite movies to watch around Christmas is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Hiya, pal.
So now, I know what you're thinking. Why would you want to talk about the sequel to Home Alone instead of the original Home Alone? And well, the reason I'm putting this movie on my list had a lot to do with my exposure to this movie. Now, for whatever reasons, TV stations would often show Home Alone 2 when they were airing the Christmas movies instead of Home Alone. I'm not really sure why. I'm thinking it may have just had something to do with it being cheaper because that movie made a lot less money than the original Home Alone did. So I guess it might have been cheaper to buy the rights to air that movie on television stations. At least that's what I assume. So I often watched Home Alone 2 more than Home Alone. In fact, I actually saw Home Alone 2 before I watched the original Home Alone. And I really didn't have, and honestly, it still worked for me. I was still able to pretty much understand what happened in the first movie, and while they do mention things that happened in the first movie, you really don't need to watch the first movie to enjoy the sequel. So that's part of the reason why I liked watching the sequel so much around Christmas time. I also just liked the way the movie shot in New York. Now, I understand it's probably in a very idealized version of New York City, aside from that scene in Central Park, but it definitely left an impression on me. The movie even managed to make a plain cheese pizza look good. Oh, I'm sorry, pizza.
A limousine and a pizza, compliments of the Plaza Hotel.
Another reason why I like this movie so much, Tim Curry. He just adds so much to the movie. He's hilarious. I just love his inclusion. Tim Curry is probably responsible for some of the funniest moments in that movie. I mean, we have him sneaking into Kevin's hotel room and him believing that he just peeped in on a man taking a shower. His face when he's reacting to being caught is hilarious.
Get out of here, you nosy little pervert, or I'm gonna slap you silly!
Then we have the iconic moment where Kevin uses his videotape to trick him into thinking he's talking to an older man with a gun.
You was here last night, too, wasn't you?
Yes, sir. I was.
You was here, and you was smooching with my brother.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, sir.
Well, I do like the first movie, and I almost always watch it congruently with the second movie. The sequel's always going to have a bigger place in my heart than the first movie. Sorry. Now, the next movie I'm going to talk about is a little older. Well, a lot older. It's in black and white, stars Jamie Stewart. I think you know where I'm going here. The Shop Around the Corner. Okay, well, The Shop Around the Corner may not be as well remembered as the other Jimmy Stewart Christmas movie, but it's just as good, trust me. So Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullivan play two bickering co-workers who work in a leather goods shop around Christmas time. Little do they know, they are actually each other's secret pen pals. Now, if the premise sounds a little bit familiar, it's because the movie was later remade into You Got Mail, starring Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. This is a classic romantic comedy that I hope modern rom-coms aspire to be. The lead characters do a great job with the snappy dialogue and making the banter very enjoyable to watch. But the characters are also able to display moments of kindness and sensitivity, which makes you want them to get together at the end.
Are you tall? Are you short? Are your eyes blue? Are they brown? Don't tell me. What does it matter so long as our minds meet?
This movie also helped me realize how much of a snack Jimmy Stewart was back in the day. This movie is about two witty, intelligent people who are both romantics at heart. And after they initially get over their differences, they're able to find each other and fall in love. Trigger warning, there is an attempted suicide in this movie, so just heads up for anyone who might not want to see that in their Christmas movie. Now, the next movie is a little shorter than the others on my list, mainly because it's kind of technically a TV special, but I'm counting it because it's my list. The TV special is All of the Other Reindeer. This story is about a little dog named Olive who's not like the other dogs, mainly because she doesn't chase cars and she doesn't do a lot of the typical things that dogs do. Anyway, it's Christmas Eve and she overhears on the radio that Santa is not able to make his flight tonight because one of the reindeers has been injured. Because one of the reindeers have been injured. Because one of the reindeers were injured. And during his announcement, he says that he's going to try to make it and rely on all of the other reindeer.
But it doesn't look good. Maybe somehow we'll make do with all of the other reindeer. But if not, Merry Christmas anyway.
Did Santa just say Olive, the other reindeer?
He said maybe we'll make do with all of the other reindeer, you silly flea.
No, he said Olive, the other reindeer. I heard him. Santa needs you to be the replacement reindeer.
Also, really funny, in this world, Santa is established as an existing figure. He's not shrouded in mystery, which is why he's able to make an announcement on the radio. Also, dogs can talk in this world. I should have probably brought that up first of all. Dogs can talk, animals can talk. It's kind of weird because they're apparently animals that are in zoos, they work there. I don't know if there's like any type of currency there. I'm assuming they just get paid with room and board. I'm going to assume that. And then I guess she's still a pet. She belongs to a man called Tim, who used to be tiny, and it's kind of established that because she's not like a typical dog, he sometimes gets frustrated with that. Anyway, she decides she's going to go and meet Santa, and she's going to help him make his deliveries tonight. The special was produced by Matt Groening, and you can kind of see his fingerprints all over it. There's a lot of the Simpsons humor in there, a lot of sight gags, background gags, wordplay. I mean, the movie is basically one big wordplay joke, because not only do we have all of the other reindeer, we also have Richard Stans and Round John Virgin. So the movie takes a lot of mileage with those types of jokes. Olive herself is also a good character, especially for a children's special. She's very cheerful. She wants to help people. It's first established that she likes to help people in the beginning when she helps a little mouse family have a Christmas tree by giving them an air freshener, because real trees are too big for them. And it also establishes her as being someone who really loves Christmas when she sings the opening song. Olive is played by Drew Barrymore, and she does a really good job with the voice acting. She makes Olive very sweet and cheerful. She also does a good job with some of the dog sounds she has to make, which is funny.
Too big, huh? Wait right here. Here you go. All that wonderful piney smell and no needles to vacuum up. It's on me. Merry Christmas.
Are you still gonna give him the slippers?
Yeah, I probably should have chewed them first.
Now, the special used to air on Fox and then later Cartoon Network for a couple of years around Christmas time. Unfortunately, they've stopped airing the special, and as far as I know, they haven't done any official streaming releases. But if you wanted to check it out, it's actually pretty easy to find the whole special on YouTube. I'm not going to link it because I don't want it to get taken down, so check it out. The next movie I want to talk about is also something that has a lot of good songs, and it's Muppet Christmas Carol. Now,
Hello. The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Now, if you're like me, you probably learned about Christmas Carol either by watching Mickey's Christmas Carol or Muppet's Christmas Carol. And I watched both, but I like Muppet's Christmas Carol slightly better, just because it's longer. And one of the great things about the movie is that it actually incorporates a lot of the original text into the story.
Yes, the Marleys were dead to begin with.
Oh, pardon me?
That's how the story begins, Rizzo. The Marleys were dead to begin with. Oh. As dead as a doornail.
It's a good beginning. It's creepy and kind of woohoo, spooky.
Oh, thank you, Rizzo.
You're welcome, Mr. Dickens.
You can tell there was a lot of care put into the movie just based on the set design, the songs, and even the original Muppets that they created to represent Christmas. Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas yet to come. Also, Michael Caine's performance as Scrooge is amazing. You can tell he's taking this role very seriously. He's pretty much playing it straight. You can tell it in his performances. And apparently that was because he said that when acting along the Muppets, he treated it like acting among the Royal Shakespeare Company.
How would the bookkeepers like to be suddenly
Unemployed!
This is my island in the sun.
You can tell he put more effort in this movie than he did in Jaws Revenge. And just like with the older Muppet movies, it does a great job of balancing the humor and the heart. And it doesn't shy away from tackling the darker subjects of the story. If you want to introduce your kids to both Muppets and the story of A Christmas Carol, this is the perfect movie. The next movie is another holiday rom-com, and it's called While You Were Sleeping, starring Sandra Bullock.
Mister, there's a train coming!
Oh, God, you smell good.
Sandra Bullock plays Lucy, a lonely Chicago transit worker who gets mistaken for a man named Peter's fiancé after saving his life. Peter falls into a coma, and when his family visits him, they meet Lucy and believe that she's his fiancé, and then they welcome her into the family. Now, while she's getting to know the family, she also meets Peter's brother, who she starts to fall in love with. So, of course, hilarity and miscommunication ensues. Yes, I know this premise sounds very ridiculous, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Hallmark/Lifetime movies that have taken similar premises like this before. But somehow, this movie actually manages to make it work. It also manages not to make it creepy either, because, yeah, it also sounds kind of creepy if you think about it. I think the strength is that while the premise is a little ridiculous, the movie tries very hard to make it somewhat plausible. I guess the biggest thing is because Lucy never lies about being Peter's fiancé. It was more a misunderstanding because she was talking to herself, saying that she was in love with this guy and she was going to marry him. And then a nurse overhears her saying this to herself and thinks that she was actually saying, oh yeah, I am his fiancé. So she's the one who is kind of responsible for the misunderstanding in the first place. Another reason this movie works so well is Peter's family, the Callahans. The way they accept Lucy into their home and treat her like part of the family just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy. They are very lucky she didn't turn out to be a serial killer. So I took a break, got a coffee, a burnt mocha, because I am that bitch. The next movie on my list is the classic, It's a Wonderful Life.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, George! Merry Christmas, George!
Now, I've mentioned before in my previous review that this movie kicks the crap out of you emotionally, and I stand by that because this movie is emotionally draining. That being said, the reason it's remembered as a heartwarming classic is because it shows how the actions of one person can make a difference. Jimmy Stewart, our favorite snack, plays George Bailey, a man who is on the brink of despair on Christmas Eve. He meets an angel named Clarence that shows him what life would be like if he wasn't born. And the movie tells his story from childhood to adulthood, just kind of showing his actions, showing showing what his dreams were. He mainly his ultimate dream was always to travel outside of Bedford Falls, the small town he lives in. Unfortunately, circumstances have always prevented him from reaching those dreams. However, he was able to meet Mary, the love of his life, and start a family with her, and basically became a respectable figure in the town. Also, I didn't realize I would have to say this twice, but trigger warning for another suicide attempt. I think the message is when you're willing to help people you care about, they will appreciate it and show how much they care about you in return. The scene at the end where all his friends and family come together to help him out is more effective than the scenes in Potterville, because it shows that they were all aware of the impact George had on their lives, and they wanted to return the favor. Now, the next movie is one I didn't actually see when it immediately came out, probably because it was one of those movies that ended up getting a lot of hype really, really fast. However, I knew I was probably going to have to see it eventually. Now, that movie is Elf.
If you want the thing you love,
you did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee.
Luckily, when I did eventually see it, I immediately understood why it was so popular. The movie stars Will Ferrell as a human man who was raised by elves who goes to New York to visit and connect with his long-lost father. Now, I recently watched an episode of the Netflix docuseries called The Holiday Movies That Made Us, and in that episode they discussed Elf, and apparently studio executives were actually a little hesitant to cast Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf because they didn't think he would be able to carry a film, which is hilarious to think about because I'm pretty sure this film, along with Old School, is probably responsible for the constant Will Ferrell movies that came afterwards. I'm glad they eventually changed their mind because Will Ferrell is perfectly cast in this movie. He's both endearing yet slightly annoying.
Why are you smiling like that?
I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
10 a.m. Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him. I know him.
They definitely knew when to pull back when it came to the humor and just allow the characters to have moments of vulnerability. And I do like how the movie is ultimately about family and about relationship with a father and son. And also the fact that Buddy, in the end, even though he later finds his biological father, he still loves and cares about the father who raised him, Pop Elf. Buddy has two dads, and that's okay, and he loves them both equally. Now, the next movie is one I watched a lot when I was a kid. It's The Santa Claus. So the movie is about a man named Scott Calvin who is a toy executive and has a son named Charlie. He is a divorced dad, so he has a son, Charlie, on Christmas Eve. During the night, he sees a man on his roof and accidentally causes him to fall and die, which is something that's not really touched upon that much in the movie. But yeah, Scott Calvin killed a man. Little did he know that that man was actually Santa. And by causing him to fall off the roof and then by putting on his suit, he is now Santa. Now, when you describe the premise like that, it doesn't really sound like it would be a family-friendly movie, but it is. They barely acknowledge the fact that Scott killed a man. And to the movie's defense, when I was younger, I didn't really focus too much on the fact that he died. To be honest, I had assumed, especially when they show Santa's body in the snow, I kind of assumed that maybe he was being transported back to his original life. So maybe the movie was kind of banking on kids making up their own rationalization of what happened in the movie. So I guess it worked on me. I don't know I don't know if it worked on other kids. It may have traumatized some kids, to be honest.
He is Santa! You killed him!
Did not. And he's not Santa.
I'm going to chalk up most of my love for this movie purely for childhood nostalgia. Because I think the reason I love this movie so much was a lot of the visuals. I think, especially with Santa's Village, it does a great job of making it seem whimsical and it actually has some pretty good special effects. I mean, I'm not an expert on special effects, but I would say the scene where Scott shaves his beard and dyes his hair and it immediately transforms back to a full beard and white hair, it's actually pretty good. Like, I think it holds up. The movie also has Bernard the Elf, who is a great snarky contrast to the world of the North Pole.
What's all this boo-hooing going on here? Hey, how you doing?
Also, pretty sure I had a crush on him back in the day when I was a little kid. So, you're now learning a little bit more about my preferences. Oh, okay, bye. Now, the next movie is one that's probably familiar to a lot of people, so I'm probably showing a little bit how basic I am with this list.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Now, A Christmas Story is about a little boy named Ralphie growing up in the 1940s. For Christmas, all he wants is a BB gun. I'm not going to say the line where he says specifically what kind of BB gun, but it's what he wants for Christmas. And the whole movie is basically about him trying hard to convince his mom to have it for Christmas. Now, the movie overall is a pretty simple concept. It's mainly about all the different things that happen leading up to Christmas. And I think the reason why I like it so much and why it resonated with a lot of people is it kind of captures that feeling you get when you're a kid and when you're looking forward to Christmas. I think we all had like that one toy that we wanted so much and that we knew if we got that toy, that would just make our Christmas dreams come true. And people recognize that feeling and remember that feeling. And this is probably why a lot of older people like it too, is it kind of reminds them of that feeling. Because as you get older, you kind of realize that, no matter, even if you get everything you want, it doesn't really make your life any better. The movie also has a lot of funny moments throughout the film, although towards the end there is a really racist scene where the family goes to a Chinese food restaurant, and it's just, it's not okay that they did that. I mean, this movie actually came out in the 80s. But yeah, that did not age well. It's kind of hard to watch, to be honest. But the actual ending of the movie is pretty sweet, and I think, and that's probably why I still continue to watch it almost every year. Now, the next movie is, of course, A Nightmare Before Christmas. This was the movie I watched so many times when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I even watched this when it wasn't Christmas.
And what did Santa bring you, honey?
The movie is about Jack Skellington, who's become disillusioned with his role as the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town. One night, while walking in the woods, he discovers Christmas Town and becomes enthralled with the holiday. Obsessed with the holiday, he decides to take over the role of Santa Claus, or Santy Claus. Now, while the movie did come from the mind of Tim Burton, it was actually directed by Henry Selick and was written by Caroline Thompson, who also wrote Edward Scissorhands. I think the reason why the movie has the staying power that it does is because I think a lot of us can either relate with Jack or Sally, especially as we get older. At one point, we all kind of get frustrated with how our lives are going and just feel like we're in a rut. So it's very easy to relate to Jack not wanting to stay in the rut that he's kind of dug himself in and wanting to break free from that. Unfortunately, on Jack's part, him wanting to experience something new ends up almost messing everything up for everyone. I think a lot of us can also relate to Sally and her wanting to be with someone but not being able to express herself, or feeling trapped by someone else and wanting to constantly break free. I think another reason the movie has a staying power that it does is just definitely the visuals and the songs. Just all the character designs are very interesting, especially all the monsters in Halloween Town. They just stick out to you. I like that even though Sally is in love with Jack, she's still willing to call him out on his idea of becoming Santa Claus when she has that premonition. She tells him that it's a bad idea, but unfortunately, he doesn't listen to her, just like every man. And of course, because he doesn't listen to her, things go wrong and he pretty much almost dies. So let that be a lesson to you. If you don't listen to a woman, you're probably going to die.
So those were my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. I hope I mentioned some of your favorites or introduced you to some new ones to watch. Please comment below with some of your favorite Christmas movies. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.